Welcome back to the lab. I would like to start by posing a question. But first, I want you to consider something that you really want in your life right now that you don't have. And what if the thing related to that you keep calling a delay is actually mercy? What if the reason it hasn't happened for you yet is not because you're forgotten or overlooked or passed by or that you're behind, but it hasn't happened yet because if it had happened already or happened sooner, it could have damaged you. That's where I want to go today. People love the phrase divine timing. They love saying it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, everything in its perfect time. It is what it is. And it all sounds nice and it sounds comforting. It even sometimes can sound spiritual, but most people only like divine timing as long as it lines up with, with their schedule. They like the idea of trust. I'm trusting the universe until that trust starts costing them something, until waiting starts exposing something about their life, their choices, themselves, and until that gap between what they want and what they can't currently hold starts getting a little too obvious. That's when we don't like divine timing, is when it's painful. But I've been thinking a lot about this. I've noticed some things in my own life and I've questioned it, and this has been a common theme for the last few weeks. And I decided that that's today's focus here on this episode of The Lab. I've been thinking a lot about how when you zoom all the way out of your life, it often looks like divine timing. It's easy to say it. Macro perspective. You look back and you say, okay, what happened when it was supposed to happen. You know, that relationship came in when it was supposed to. That business opportunity showed up when it was supposed to. That opportunity, the door closed when it was supposed to. You know, heartbreak, success, the lesson. Maybe you had to move, something collapsed. You had to rebuild. From a distance, from that macro perspective, it's easy to say, oh, it happened in its perfect time. And it takes distance. Somehow, when things are far enough away, it starts to look like there was order to it. And again, like I said, that's the macro of it. But when you start to zoom in closer and look at the specifics of your life, it doesn't feel like timing. It doesn't feel good. And if you look closer, you'll start to see that it feels like a sequence. It feels like this happened, and then that happened, and then this conversation had to happen, and then this disappointment had to happen, and then there was a correction, and then a connection, and then there was a change in relationship, and then I faced up to a hard truth, and that opened me up, and that made me have to learn this new skill, and then I learned that skill, and that focused me into a different place. Then there was a massive loss, and then I leveled up, and then in my level up, I had to exercise a bit of restraint, and then that season where nothing looked like it was moving, but everything in you was being reorganized. That's not timing. It looks like timing, and it happens in a specific time. But time isn't the measurement. Sequencing is. So that's where we're going today. Divine timing is how you would label the perspective from a macro level. 30,000-foot viewpoint, you're looking down at how things have happened for you in the past. You could say, oh, it's in divine timing, happened in its perfect time. But when you get into the narrow details, and you're honest with yourself, you will start to see that it's a sequence of things. Divine sequencing, that's the micro for this conversation. They are the same thing. It's the same truth. It's just at a different magnification level. You zoom out, oh, it's divine timing. You zoom in, there were things that had to happen in a proper order. I've spoken a lot about the buffer, which is that middle place. You know what you want internally in your inner world. You've decided it. You've asked for it. You've created for it. Maybe you've prayed for it. You've done the work to make sure that you've heard me use the acronym VACOG, where sensorily, from a perspective, you know what it would sound like, taste like, feel like, the whole thing. You feel like you know what you want. You asked for it, prayed for it, you worked for it, you visualized it. Let's be real. It was probably a disappointment. You cried about it. You did everything you thought you knew how to do, and it still isn't here yet. That middle part, that's the buffer. You did the work up front. You knew what you want. You got detailed about it. And now in the middle part, that season, the in between, that's an awkward middle. And that's where it hasn't fully arrived in your physical reality. You haven't, quote unquote, manifested it yet. But in this buffer, there's an invitation. The old version of you is insufficient to hold that new dream. That part in the middle is the buffer. And the buffer is not empty space. That's a lot of mistakes that people make in looking at when they make a goal, they have a desire, they want to manifest something, they decide, and then you're in the part where you don't have it yet. People misunderstand exactly what that is. They think that the buffer means that nothing's happening and that it's, punishment in a way. Oftentimes they think that it's, God or the universe is withholding something from them. They look at it from a negative spin. I once heard that somebody described the buffer as like this annoying hallway that you have to stand in while everybody gets to go through the door that you want to go through, but you got to sit there and wait. And sure, you can look at the buffer that way. But in the science of this, step one, deciding what you want and getting very, very detailed. Step two is the buffer. And the step three is it showing up in your physical reality. So you can look at the buffer like it's all those things. It's punishment, it's withholding, it's all that. But that will increase the time associated of how long you're in the buffer if you do that. Because in reality, the buffer is preparation. It's the place where you are learning. It's a training for you to be able to hold and receive the life that you want, the thing that you want. It's where you get calibrated with you. It's a reorganization, a reordering. And this is where that sequencing conversation comes in, is because I think the buffer in reality is actually demonstrating to you, giving you an invitation to realize these things need to change, and they need to change in this order. And the way you experience urgency in the buffer is in direct relationship to the order to which things need to change. And the reason why they need to change is because you are not ready, hard as it is to hear, for the life that you want, the relationship you want, the money that you want, the business that you want, the body that you want. There are certain things that have to be in order for you to experience it. And I know that's hard to hear. People hate that. It goes against the magic of the law of attraction and manifesting and neuro-linguistic programming, when in reality, it's actually the science behind those things. Consider this. If you were to get a ton of money too early, it can make you reckless. If you were to get famous and have visibility when you're not ready for it, it could create inside of you an addiction to needing approval. Let's talk love. If you get love and the right relationship too early, without having learned self-love and self-acceptance, it will turn you into somebody clingy and controlling. Power. You get too much influence too early, too soon. Makes you arrogant, makes you a prick. Truth. When you learn something in its full truth, the lid gets pulled off, the conspiracy theory gets revealed, however you want to describe it, it can make your personal connection with yourself collapse. Your personal relationship with truth can be disrupted if it's outside of order. Success before your identity is solid, that'll turn you into a performer in your life. Inauthentic, fake. Like I said, you have the wrong relationship too soon, best relationship too soon, it will turn you into somebody that's dependent. Codependency happens in those ways. It takes character to handle influence. You get too much influence before your character's dialed in, that'll make you manipulative. You see where I'm going with this? These are all a part of the sequence. It in no way is saying that the influence or the love or the fame or the power is unattainable. It's saying and showing you through the invitation in the buffer that you have to level up to be able to handle that. And so I want it to be very clear. If you are not experiencing the thing that you want and it feels like it's taking too long and you're waiting, but yet you are doing the things to learn and grow for yourself, I want you to consider that God and the universe have mercy on you. When I first started to really understand that concept of divine mercy for me in the not having what I want yet, it rocked me in a beautiful way. Because if you have other relationships, if you have children, you know that mercy is not always giving that other person exactly what they want when they want it. If you're a parent, you know this for sure. You can't just give your kids everything they want when they want it immediately. They will turn into monsters. And so it's merciful to have pacing on these things so that they can handle it. So you get to in turn see the universe and the way that it approaches you the same way. It is merciful for the invitation for you to level up, to be able to handle the thing that you actually want. Sometimes mercy is not letting a good thing into your life until you can actually handle it without destroying everything else. That changes the whole conversation. I want you to consider that. I want you to consider if you were to look at the delay that you're experiencing in your life, that it's not denial or abandonment, and it's not random. It's not cruelty, it's kindness because it's forcing structure. And that's what we're unpacking today. I want to talk to you about what that buffer really is. I want to talk to you about the difference between wanting a thing, knowing exactly what that means, and being able to hold on to a thing. I want to talk about what it means to build the version of yourself so you can receive. You can handle it. You can keep the thing that you ask for if you get it. And I want to talk about why some of the most painful seasons of our lives may actually have been a part of a sequence that kept the actual blessings that we sought from becoming a curse that we hated later on. So if you're in a season like that where you feel like you're behind or you're frustrated or you feel like you've done the work but it's not happening for you, this episode is for you. Because it's not that you're too late. You're just in the sequence. So let's start here. Everything you could ever want, dream, or desire, it starts inside of you, in your inner world. Before something becomes real in your physical reality, there's some version of it that first was that you had conceptually experienced internally. Internally, you decide what you want, you become aware of your desire. Then you have to finally get honest about it. You label it, you name it. It's a car, it's a trip, it's a relation, whatever. You have to quantify it. Maybe it's peace, maybe it's impact, health, whatever it is irrelevant. It happens first inside of you. And then there's the invitation for the internal recognition to mean something to you, to where now you supercharge it. So it's not just a thought. Now it becomes something where you have to put yourself in a position to experience it in your internal world from a sensory place. Meaning you have to know what it sounds like, what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it smells like, what it looks like. That thing that you want, that material item, that experience, that relationship, that physical health, you have to know those details. And I think that this matters because a lot of people are not honest enough to admit what they actually want. Having this layer in there where you have to go figure out what those, I call it VACOG. It's an acronym that stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Those are basically your five senses. So when you have a desire for something, the way that you supercharge that desire so that it can move into basically out for delivery, as I'll call it, is you have to know what it would be like. Put yourself in there so you can have a future memory. But most people don't do that. They're not honest enough to admit what they actually want, which means they're not going to do the work to get it. They'll say vague things like, oh, I want money. I don't want to struggle anymore. Oh, I would just want to be loved. I want to feel what my purpose is. Okay, what does that mean? You have to now fill in the blanks, fill in the space so that it becomes an actual thing, a shape, a feeling, a thought, a smell, a sight. If you never let that desire you have loose and fill in the gaps with those things, you will never start to initiate this sequence to where you enter, as I've shared, the buffer, where now it's real. You've decided you want something. You've looked deeply into the specifics of it in all of the sensory ways. Now you're on the track. You're in the buffer. You're in that middle place where you are now being shown through your life invitation after invitation on exactly what to do to go become the person that could handle it. Now you have to be honest about that, because it means that you might need to become more benevolent. It means you might need to check your ego. It means you might need to have better focus on the things that you want. It means that you might actually need to release parts of your ambition to be better instead of being revenge based. You see what I'm saying here? It will burn out of you negativity. It will burn out of you traits that hold you back, that don't handle the weight of a good life. And you have to be honest with yourself about that too, because sometimes we think that we want something, but what we really want is we just want to be we don't want to feel shameful or guilty anymore. A lot of times when people say they want money, they don't even know what that means. They just would like to be removed from the stress of not having it. So it's not an actual detailed description or physical or even emotional thing. They just want relief from their current pain. And so they say this sort of bland, vague thing. And that will create distortion for you. So in this part of the buffer, the early work, you have to be honest enough to say, what do I actually want? And why do I want it? Is it good? Would it be good for me? Is it aligned with who I want to be? See, once you're in that place and that desire comes clear, there's something powerful about filling in all of those sensory gaps around it in your inner world. Again, like I said, what does it look like, sound like, feel like? What's the environment of it? What's your nervous system response in this? How do you react to it? How do you carry yourself while you're experiencing it or around it? How do you speak when you're in that place where you have the thing that you want? How do you move? Who's in your world? That's the sensory internalization of all this matters at a level that most people are unwilling to acknowledge. And because the doorway into making and understanding this sensory internalization is you got to do some work. And the reason why it matters isn't because of some sort of magical thing. It matters because it helps create congruence for you. If you're really willing to own that you want something, internally things will start to shift. So the focus agent of your subconscious mind will now start to see and pull you towards the stuff that will make it so that you can become prepared for that. And that's the part that nobody likes. That's the moment where you have to get clear on what you want. Because you're intending something, whether you're conscious about it or not. You're moving towards something. And so if that's the case, why not be moving towards something that you exactly want in its exact detail as opposed to some vague, floaty, random thing? That's the buffer. It's not punishment or rejection. This is where things get revealed to you. It reveals the gaps. You might not have the skill to hold the things that you want, showing that gap. You might not have the capacity or the identity to be able to live in the space where you have everything you want. The buffer will show you the gap. You might not know how to receive love in a way that would allow you to have the relationship that you always wanted. Other things, discipline, boundaries, your word, all of these things get exposed in the buffer. And where you're at with that will accelerate it towards you receiving that in your physical world or not. And because most people don't understand this, they interpret this stuff mean that it's really far away. And I'm being punished. I'm being reminded I'm not lovable. I'm being reminded I see myself as this way. I'm being reminded that I'm bad at money. Instead of looking at it as an invitation to get good at those things. See, that's where people get the most discouraged. Because once this whole thing starts, this sequence, again, divine timing is the macro view. Divine sequencing is the micro view. And the buffer is where the sequencing happens. Because once it starts, it doesn't feel magical. It actually feels inconvenient. You decide you want peace, and suddenly life shows up and it shows you how petty you are and how reactive you are. You decide, as an example, you want a great relationship, and all of a sudden your abandonment issues are on full display. Or you decide you want more money and more business, and suddenly you're forced to look back at the lack of structure, how you've avoided things, weird beliefs you've had about your worth and your money. All that gets exposed. You guys follow me here? You decide you want fame and influence, and suddenly you have a deep fear of criticism when you put yourself out there. That gets exposed. You decide that you want to be used by God at a higher level, that you want to be living your purpose. And suddenly you start to see all of the little places where you still need approval from others. And it's screaming at you. Your nervous system flares up. Now, let's be real. It's very easy to think that that isn't progress and that it feels like things are getting worse. But you're not getting worse. You are starting to see what was always there, and you're starting to be invited to fix it. That is a huge difference. This buffer is where all of your hidden instability comes forward. Everything's shown. And again, if you misunderstand being in that season of the buffer, so to speak, you will call it failure. You will look at it as if it's proof that you can't have it or that it's not happening. You'll say things like, well, this is why it's not happening. But the truth is that the very exposure to all of those things is the exact part and the overcoming of that, the relearning, the letting go of the old that allows your next level to happen and to happen easily. Because what you receive without structure, it will usually damage you. That's an easy one for most parents to understand. When you don't give your kid boundaries, they become a monster. And so in this buffer, the sequence, it is merciful by God and by the universe. You not getting exactly what you want right now is mercy. Because you're not just receiving what you asked for when you go through this process, you are receiving the sequence that makes it so that it's sustainable. That's the machinery of this whole thing. That's the mechanics. That's the science. One of the biggest challenges that I had when I first was introduced to things like the law of attraction or neuro-linguistic programming or manifesting was I didn't like the woo-woo magical nonsense of it because I didn't know how to reconcile that inside of me. But yet I chose to believe, and in the process of wanting to understand it, I realized, oh, it is very scientific when you get into the behavioral science of it, and you see the sequencing of things, and you see how when you start to internally understand the sensory experience of something that you want, you are then in this buffer being invited to fix the things that would make it so that you could handle that. I've experienced that firsthand. And it's not glamorous. Hey, you want the thing that you want? It looks like discipline. It looks like disappointment. It looks like you got to break up with that person. It looks like being humiliated and humbled. It looks like starting over. Oh, you want that thing that you say you want so bad? Oh, yeah. It looks like you having to relearn something you thought you already had learned. Oh, you want to live that big life? Yeah. It requires you to be told no a bunch. You see where I'm going with this? Like the buffer and the sequencing in the middle of this, it's not pleasant. It doesn't look like what you want it to look like. It will break you down in a way that's beautiful. because it removes everything. It removes false confidence. It removes bravado. Like you literally have to rebuild yourself to be able to handle exactly the life that you want. That is the sequence. And in a beautiful, benevolent, merciful way, it will show you exactly the order. You focus on exactly what you want. You get really clear about it. You know the sensory experience of it. And as you start to focus on that and move forward in your actual real life, wanting it to show up in your physical reality, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity will present itself for you to be able to learn and grow and develop into the person that can handle it. That is the season. That is what the buffer is. You're still human, though, and you're going to be tempted to mislabel it. And that's okay. But you will also start to shift. You will, for example, you will notice that you might be being prepared for something where the old version of you would have called it abandonment, where it wasn't abandonment. It was that there were things removing out of your life so that you had room for the thing that you want. You might call that delay punishment because it's painful. That's the old you. In the new you, you will understand. I'm in this sequence. I'm in the buffer. There are things happening. And my invitation is to keep moving forward and be okay with it. The old you would say, nothing's happening. Instead of, where am I the problem? How am I holding myself back here? That question changes a lot. You know, I've shared before several stories about just different business opportunities and things that I've wanted. And, for as an example, this episode matters a lot to me because I'm in the middle of my own sequence in the buffer. I've had a podcasting agency for 8 years, and this last year has been one of the most challenging periods of the entire time. AI has brought upon a change in the industry. I also noticed that because of certain aspects of where my sensibilities were, that I overlooked the need to truly incorporate on a deeper level video as an offer. I, about a year ago, decided that I wanted to stop being unemployed every time until I closed a deal. So I started building a recurring model and it allowed me more coaching opportunities. And I got exposed. My source of business for the longest time was that I was highly trusted, still am highly trusted by some very powerful individuals that have big networks. And these individuals and their big networks through their coaching or consulting needed a person like me and my skill set to be able to help their tribe. And so I would do that. I would go in and I would help these tribes and I would start their podcasts. I would coach them. I would guide them, which means that I never had to learn or master the skill of advertising, of marketing. I didn't have it in me on how to take somebody that had never seen or heard of me before and convert them into a client. I did not understand that whole process. I still am learning that whole process. But yet, when I started making new goals and intentions for what I wanted for my company, I realized that I needed to understand a deeper way traditional marketing, social media marketing. Because, like I said, up until that point, I had been trusted by specific people. They would bring me in. I was already co-signed and they'd say, this is the guy you need to hire. And they would hire me. I didn't have to get better at sales. I just had already proved my point and proved my skill to a certain key people. And that alone gave me the clout to be able to walk into these rooms and be trusted immediately. Now, I recognize I had to earn that trust with the original individual, which is clearly a part of my own buffer as well. But the point is that right now, as I move forward, I am rebuilding things in a more deliberate way, and it's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because, for example, in the past, I had some amazing demonstrations of success and wealth. My wife drove a G63 AMG, a G-Wagon. I drove a Ferrari. I've had to sell those cars. And in that, had to address inside of myself how I had attached my identity to those cars. That the physical and visual representation of me driving those cars meant something about me, when all it meant about me was that I bought that car. That's my version of the sequence. I had to move past having my identity be affected in such a way by having a nice car and having my wife drive nice cars and us having the purses and the trips and the first class and the Rolex and the Panerai and all of the nice stuff, the shoe collection that's worth 100,000 bucks or whatever. All of that had to shift for me as my income reduced and I had to relearn how to handle the reality of my business. Now, I have gone through the very process to which I've shared with you in that I thought I was being punished. I thought that I was finally being exposed for the fraud that I thought I was inside. I thought that it was going to be hard to climb out of it. And that was when I was having my own pity party. But when I let go of that and I started to realize I was very, very clear about exactly what I wanted in this new world with my new business. And what I was being presented with was an opportunity to become that person, to learn those skills, to put myself in a place to be an incredible marketer, to be somebody that is more proficient behind the microphone. In the last several years, I have become way better as a communicator, as someone that uses language to connect with other people. My vision, my discipline has gotten better, all because I decided to look at this differently. Now, does it mean it doesn't hurt? No, of course it stings still. Because when you go from one mountaintop to have to being in the valley again, it's a smash on your ego. But then again, that's an invitation because I know that I'm climbing a bigger mountain now. You know, some things, when you get them too soon, they go away. And the irony is that that's been a pattern in my life more than I want to admit. Whether it be a certain level of financial success or whatever. Comes, I'm not ready for it, I sabotage it, and it goes away. And a lot of people think they want money, but what they really want is a feeling of significance that they think that money will give them. I completely understand that as it's been part of my challenge. And I've also learned that when you get money before you're mature enough to handle it, money will be like a drug. You will spend it so that you can soothe yourself or to distract yourself. You will flex to compensate, and you will have it be a part of your whole identity. And that's a dangerous place. I learned that firsthand. I felt thorough embarrassment when I had to get rid of my Ferrari because I was very open and vocal about the whole process of me buying that car and all the things that I had to learn and achieve and the mindset adjustments I had to make and the skills that I had to learn because I earned it. It was my dream car. It was something that I was in a position to do, but I also was exposed in that I hadn't learned all the other skills surrounding that would allow me the stability at a certain level to keep it. Now, that doesn't mean that because you get a fancy car and have to sell it that you failed. It doesn't mean any of that, or that you are some sort of faker or fraud. I'm in no way saying those things either. What I'm saying is that when you attach your identity to something like that, that's not the end goal, and you will be exposed. You know, and it works in relationships too. Some people think they want that specific relationship that's all of the wonderful things. And what they really want is they just want to be rescued from loneliness. And they are putting it out there that it's somebody else's job to choose them or to love them. And so, you know, the relationship would become your source for your self respect, your boundaries, your healing. And it's not clean. It's not sustainable. It's really chaotic, actually. You become clingy. You start performing for the thing back from your partner and you overcompensate. You're too nice. You over accommodate, even. And then when you don't get it at the level you want, you become controlling and then you morph into the other person and they have all the power. It's gross. And you call that love, and it's not that at all. I trust you enough to see this as I'm sharing it, that This is a real life thing. You don't have something that you want right now. And it's really easy to blame God or the universe or to think you're not worthy or whatever, but it's just an invitation for you to figure out what it is that it would take for you to hold that thing, which oftentimes even comes with a realization you didn't even want it in the first place. In my coaching group, The Lab, there was a specific member there that had shared that they wanted a Costa Rican beach house. And when they started to look into what it meant in that whole sensory internalization, VACOG, as I shared, they realized they didn't want it at all. What they thought it would mean to have and experience that was not at all what the reality of it was. And in an unspoken way, that's exactly what the buffer shows you, is that you are continually being invited to become and experience and learn how to handle that thing, which will expose exactly what that thing is. Like, again, for example, some people think they want truth, but too much truth before you have the capacity to receive it, it will shatter you. And not because truth is bad. Truth is king. Truth is the standard. But because you don't have the nervous system to be able to metabolize the reality of what you're seeing, when sometimes you can see how stark something actually is. That's why a lot of people are scared of truth within their relationships. Because if you really knew how your person thinks and feels about you, or they really knew the depth to your disconnect from them, it's a lot. But it's important to be prepared for that. That's why there is this order that totally matters on how, when you decide exactly what you want, you take these things that are being presented to you as learning moments, and you do not take them personal as if it means there's something wrong with you. It's you getting strong enough to handle it. Nobody looks at a barbell in a gym and takes it personal if it's heavy against that barbell. That barbell has something against me. No, you are now having to learn how to develop the strength to lift it. That is what I'm talking about within this buffer and the invitations that come. The things in the buffer that come, the disappointment, the challenges, the delay, while they have those labels and those names, they aren't those things at all. They are teaching agents to prepare you to be able to handle that thing. And as a reminder, I know I said this before, but a good thing in the wrong order will destroy you. You can ruin relationships. It can affect families. It can poison how you see the world. It'll make you bitter, hateful, arrogant, paranoid, entitled. You can make decisions from lack and need as opposed to abundance. And so recognizing you got to be able to handle it when it comes, and you're not going to be able to receive it until it does, that is protection for you. And I think, because I do believe in a loving God and a loving universe, that this sequence and this formula, as it's been presented to us, is a form of love. It's allowing us both the access to the thing that we want and the development required to get it. You decide what you want in your inner world. Then you begin to internalize it and you make it real internally enough that your life begins orientating towards it. And then the buffer begins showing you the required upgrades that you need to be able to receive that. I use that word deliberately. The required upgrades, not punishments, upgrades. The buffer will show you that you need emotional regulation. It will show you that you need patience, better boundaries. It will show you that you need skills, consistency. It will show you where you need to tell the truth. It will show you where you can't handle the truth. It will show you where you're outsourcing your identity and your self-worth. It will show you where you need to grieve. It'll show you if you need to let go of a relationship, if you need to make your health and fitness more of a priority. In my case, it's shown me that I needed to learn how to lead and accept that I was a leader, which required that I needed to be more humble. That's the buffer. It's where that future thing starts making demands on the current you. I'm going to say that again. The buffer is where the future thing that you want starts making demands on the current version of you. If you're wise, you stop taking everything so personal. You will stop saying, why is this so hard? And you will start asking, where am I the problem? What would this next level require of me? Because it's not there to slow you down. It's there to build your ability to hold on to it. In my personal life, I've shared this over the course of my Instagram stories recently. I've been fit for a lot of my adult life. I had a season where I was not fit at all. I was very overweight, very unhealthy, addicted to alcohol, chaos internally, didn't want to lead. When I made the decision to get really in shape, I'm talking sub 10% body fat, really strong and healthy, counting all of my calories and my macros every day, taking it to that level, it exposed that I needed to learn better discipline on how to handle that. It exposed that I needed to have a better vision for exactly what I wanted because I was interpreting all this to be nothing but pain as opposed to the reward. It exposed in me where I had leaned for distraction during difficult times. But as I stuck with it and I started to see those results shift for me, and I started to feel health and vibrance in my body in a way that I had never felt, I was able to make this connection that I was not being punished when it was difficult to say no to old habits. I was being rewarded because I was now becoming somebody that could handle it. And it's hard. It's all about timing and development, sequence. People say those words all the time. Well, I'm trusting God here. I'm trusting the universe and its timing. And then you buck it when you feel resistance because that sequence is humbling you. Even the most successful, confident, powerful men in their quiet moments feel humbled by this sequence because it shows them their fears. It shows them their mistakes. It shows them their inadequacies, but not in a way that is hurtful. Just like I shared with the example of the barbell, you being required to become more disciplined is like the barbell. It's not personal. It's there for you to use to make you better. And that's why trying to manifest stuff without your life, without being mature enough to handle it is just it will create self-sabotage on a level you never thought possible. I remember once reading that manifestation without maturation is self-sabotage with better branding. I love that line. It just cuts through all the fluff. You can visualize all you want. You can say the affirmations all you want. You can fill in even the VACOG stuff for the future that you want. Fine. But if you refuse the actual sequence of becoming, the actual confrontation that you have to have with yourself, the actual discipline required, the actual humility, the actual repair that you need to do to yourself, the actual stretching, then you are not really prepared to receive the thing and you're just fantasizing about escape. And escape is not the same as embodiment. Don't I don't want people hearing this and then thinking, cool, I'll just wait. No, that's not what I mean. This isn't a passive thing. The buffer isn't passive. You're required to participate in it. The buffer will be short and you will get the thing that you want. The more serious you take it upon yourself to learn the things that the buffer is inviting you to do. Life is showing you. You make the adjustment, you learn the skill, you regulate the emotions, you learn the pattern, you tell the truth, you clean up the chaos, you stop making this season mean that you're cursed, you build in the buffer. That's what makes this whole thing holy and useful. And that's why it's merciful. If you're listening to this and you're in a buffer season right now and you are feeling this discomfort, here's some questions that I would have you ask. What is it that I actually want? Second, why do I want it? Is that desire good, benevolent? And what is this time exposing in me that would need to change for all of this to work out? What skills, what habits, what mindset, what boundaries, what truth is being asked of me right now? I guess lastly, if the thing you wanted arrived today, be honest with the answer to this. Would you be able to receive it, handle it, and thrive in it? Not just touch it or get it or post about it, but actually hold it well. Hold it responsibly. Would you be able to sustain it? Or would the excitement of it burn you out? If you're honest with yourself, the answer to that question will sober you up real quick. Because a lot of times the answer is actually no. And it's not shameful, it's useful. A useful truth is better than being fake about your readiness. And once you know that, you stop trying to force fruit onto the branches of the tree that you're still watering. So I want to leave you with this. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe it's just you're in the sequence. You are in the buffer. And the season that you've been calling a slow season is actually sacred. That the frustration that you feel is not because nothing is happening, because what is happening does not yet look like the outcome that you asked. Your life is not withholding the thing. Life is building the version of you who can hold it without distortion. It's not everything that is good for you is good for you yet. That matters. Let me repeat that. Not everything that is good for you is good for you yet. Some things, if they came sooner, it would affect your ego in a negative way. You'd be exposed for your immaturity, wreck relationships that mattered, have issues with dependency and codependency. You'd get hardened, poisoned, a bunch of different things that could happen if you get things in the wrong order, wrong time. So yes, divine timing is real, but when you zoom in close enough, you'll see that it is divine sequencing that's actually happening. You'll start to see the order of it. You'll start to see the preparation that's required of you. You'll see the conversations, the losses, the skills you're building, the discipline, the heartbreak, the correction, the restraint, the growth, the truth. You'll see what looked random wasn't random. What seemed like bad luck was a blessing to bring you there. What looked late wasn't late, and what looked empty wasn't empty. It was the buffer. And the buffer was not there to mock your desire. It was there to help you become mature enough to handle it. This is merciful. I keep coming back to that because it's true. The buffer, this sequence, this part of it, it's mercy. And mercy doesn't always mean you get immediate relief. Mercy can be paced. Sometimes mercy isn't letting your life hand you something that your current self would turn into chaos. Sometimes mercy is protecting your future from your present lack of readiness. So if you're in the buffer right now, do not waste it. Don't complain about it. Don't compare it to others. Don't resent it. Study it. Cooperate with it. Ask better questions of yourself. Build inside it. Build yourself. Because one day, if you stay awake long enough and stay honest long enough and stay willing long enough, you're going to look back on this season and realize that it was not empty at all. It was exact. It was detailed. It was scientific. And from far enough away, you will call it divine timing. But right now, while you're living in it, what it really is this divine sequencing. And it's okay to thank God for that. Some gifts only remain blessings when they arrive in the right order. Now, my friends, I'm grateful for this episode. If you'd like help with this, it's exactly the type of work that we do in the lab. Go to the show notes and you'll see a link there to go to bryceprescott.com and to learn about exactly who the lab is for and what we do there. As well, you would like to be coached by me in a private one-on-one capacity, you can do that there too, as far as learning about it. And if you'd like to start a podcast, want help with your voice, got you there too. My friends, the buffer and this sequencing provides a lot of opportunities for growth. And I'm going to say it. Most of us look at this erroneously. We look at it as something that is not as important as it needs to be. This is where the real work begins. You want that exact life you've been dreaming of. It requires you to level up. And the best way to make that whole experience quicker is to get help, get access to mentorship and community. And I can offer you both. So consider that. Go to bryceprescott.com. Check it out. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. Talk with your friends about it. Keep the conversation going. Tag me on Instagram if you share anything about this episode. It helps me to get this in front of more people. So that is our episode. And my friends, like I always say, until next time, take it a day at a time. I'll see you.